Okay, let's talk about this piece, Carcassi's Opus 60, number 7, Study in A minor. This is another of those really important pieces that everybody's got to do once they get up to the right kind of level. It's one of the gems of the repertoire, like number 3 from the same set. The first thing to say is this used to be on the Associated Board syllabus for grade 4, and it's been removed basically because it was only grade 4 if it was played far too slowly. It's marked allegro and you've got to play it allegro, and that makes it really a higher grade, so it's been moved. It's a very interesting piece because it's got a quality that you'd think of as being like what you call a toccata. It's a style of piece that kind of grows out from the way the hands work on the instrument, and that's why one of the reasons why there isn't a sort of obvious tune quality to it. It's got a lot of sort of arpeggio figuration. It's got that first bar, which is a bit of a sort of early tremolo technique to it, and because of those two things, the tremolo style and the arpeggio style, one of the things to think about with this piece is whether you want to treat it as a right hand study from the point of view of saying, I'm going to do both of these kinds of technique, the tremolo kind of technique where the fingers are on the same string, and the arpeggio where you're going across the strings, whether you're going to do those two kinds of techniques keeping the hand exactly still the whole way and making the fingers make the adjustments, or whether in fact you're going to move the hand consciously to achieve the two kinds of technical approach. And because it's a pretty fast piece, you've got to have that kind of thing sorted out. When you're doing the arpeggios, the arpeggio sections such as bar 2, be very clear to do the sort of finger planting approach where your index finger takes the third string, your middle finger takes the second string, your A finger takes the top string. So the first beat of the second bar, for example, you're missing out the second string in that beat, and so you miss out the middle finger. In arpeggios, if you miss out a string, miss out a finger. So the first two bars are thumb, I and A, and then the first two beats of the second bar, and then beats 3 and 4 of the second bar you do thumb, I, M, because the fingers are working with strings 3 and 2 in those places. In common with pretty well all the pieces in this set, you notice there's lots and lots of dynamics, and a lot of those little hairpins that basically say make this note sort of fall onto the next one. A good example would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth line, where in the first bar, the second beat, you've got a hairpin onto the third beat, and then the fourth beat has a hairpin going to the first beat of the next bar. A very similar thing happens a slightly different way in the third study as well, if you've looked at that one. And probably should have said as well that when you're thinking about doing this piece, it's absolutely crucial that you find a really good edition, partly because it's such a popular, well-known piece. There are lots of really rubbish editions around that leave out all sorts, or change all sorts of things, and it's funny how people think this is a really great piece, but I'm more intelligent than the composer, I'm going to change things. So don't buy into that kind of edition, please. Get some proper what you call urtext edition, like the Chanterelle type of edition, because in the end it'll give you a far better musical experience. Other things to think about with this piece, I mean, it's always put forward as being a good place to start tremolo. It isn't really. You really want to do some proper separate tremolo technique work before approaching it. And from the historical point of view, I really am not aware of any evidence that Carcassi would have actually fingered that first bar with our contemporary technical approach of doing thumb A, M, I to do the kind of continuous tremolo sound. Other important things to think about with this piece that are worth mentioning, you've got these 2 bars at the end of each section, the last bar of all and the 8th bar I think it is, where you've got the marking poco ritenuto over the top. This is really important because the composer's put it there, he's written it on, but remember that ritenuto means held back, so those 3 beats are sort of suddenly at a slightly lesser tempo. It's not that they're slowing down, it's that they're suddenly held back. It's quite a sort of tricky thing to really catch, and of course it doesn't say, it's just meant to be obvious, but the bar after that is back to the original tempo. I would be very careful with your fingering options for the left hand for this piece. There's an awful lot that you can do to make your life easier in terms of easing the passage from chord shape to chord shape. The fingering that's in most of the editions is doubtless functional, but be prepared to think carefully about what you can do to avoid having to jump one left hand finger over and things like that. Above all, make sure that the fingering that you're doing when you're practicing it slowly, which you do obviously to begin with, and make sure that the fingering that you're doing in your whole technical approach will still work when you've pushed the tempo up. And sometimes you could say, well, I don't know until I can play it, I'll never know. Well, the answer is, if there's anything that looks remotely kind of like that might be a bit of a problem, is just to isolate it and then basically learn it well enough that you can do those, say, 2 beats or whatever it is, the junction between the 2 chords, at a faster tempo. Maybe by putting your metronome on and pushing it up, pushing the tempo up until you find that you're getting somewhere close to what you might actually think of as an ideal final speed for it. It's very common and very sad when people have some beautiful fingering sorted out and they come along and say, well, it won't work when you're going faster, or shall we say, it would have all sorts of problems like losing the legato or crazy noises going on, because it's a fingering that only works when it's going slowly.